discuss how Likkle ideas are transformed into big dreams. On the toolkit, and you will access a lot of resources. A lot of the information that we presented here today, there are a lot of activity sheets. So we encourage you to download some of that information. Also, there's a digital swag bag with Good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are around the world. Welcome to another edition of Likkle Byte Ideas. And I am Doreed Whitlock. I am the Chief Marketing Officer for Samuel Fields Consulting Group. And of course, every Wednesday, we bring you tools, tales, and techniques about how to better manage your money. We all can use some information, some help, but let me get my co-host in here, who's the real financial whiz, Megan Samuel Fields.
Hey, Doreed. Good afternoon to our viewers and listeners. And those of us who will join us later on YouTube, good afternoon.
Yes. Yeah. We definitely, some people come in the YouTube shower of rain, and we appreciate it. Everyone is busy. And look at modern technology. You don't have to listen to things in real time. You can go back and listen to it at your leisure. But we want to thank all of you who have been helping to grow our page, our YouTube channel. We really appreciate you. If you have not yet done so, please subscribe so that every time we upload a new episode, a new ad or some information, you can get the notification, and get on it right away. Absolutely. So Megan, how's your week been? We're what? Literally 2 weeks away from Christmas. Isn't it crazy?
It's crazy.
Oh my goodness.
In my head, it's as if Christmas, I have another month to go.
Yeah.
In reality, it's not. So it's been crazy, but I'm looking forward to it because my boys will be home.
Oh, so nice. That's always nice.
Everyone will be home. And my mom should be coming down as well. So we're coming over.
Yes.
Coming over for Christmas. So it should be fun.
Yep. It's wonderful.
What are you
Magical time of the year. I'm not even sure. Still trying to get it together.
Okay.
You
have 2 weeks.
I have 2 weeks. I better start getting on it now. Yeah. But let us get right to it. Now, it's the first Wednesday in December. Of course, we went through November on a wave of entrepreneurship month. And we had some great speakers here. And wow.
Need some water?
I think I do, but I'll grab some a little later on.
Mm-hmm.
So we are now doing Sowing Seeds of Knowledge in December, and we are going to get started with some tidbits and some questions. But let me first bring in our special guest.
Yes.
We have Dr. Norma Samuel. We've been trying to book this lady for a while.
Busy lady.
She's busy, doing lots of great stuff. She is actually, let me get her credentials. She is Extension Officer or Direct. Tell me your title.
I'm an extension agent with the University of Florida, and I am also the Associate District Extension Director for my Extension District.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
And she'll tell us what all that means. She'll tell us what that means. I just know these people are brainiacs. They do all kinds of complicated stuff to make sure that we eat well, we have great food. Norma's page is always so amazing. She and her husband, who is our cousin, they do an amazing job farming, and they're always he's always showing off some of their amazing
fancy.
Yeah.
Not just the vegetables, but what they do with them.
And the pie and farming. Yes, and the techniques that they use. Farming in buckets and that kind of stuff. So really, really high-tech stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know what? We should have told Norma to not show up without some food. They're always baking pies and kumquat casseroles and all kinds of stuff. Like really, really creative stuff. I love it. So Norma, we're going to talk about farming because there's so many parallels. We had a similar show in the past, and our topic today is financial wisdom from those who work the land. And we come from, an agricultural background. Parents, grandparents, they just love the land. So we're going to be talking more about the parallels between finance and farming, and they are many, both in terms of the skill set and then even just personality type. So we're going to get into that. Norma is a sorrel specialist. I said it right. Not that she makes it, she grows it. She's going to tell us about the various species and educate us about sorrel, and it's a great conversation to have at this time of year. So
there's no Christmas without sorrel.
Oh, no,
exactly.
Not in a Caribbean house. You have to wheel and come again. Has anyone ever had sorrel and white and red wine?
I've had sorrel wine.
Okay, you need to try sorrel, maybe like a Moscato. Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. Have you tried that, Norma?
I only use my alcohol in fruit cake.
Okay.
Okay.
She's trying to tell us she's not a lush. She's trying to tell us in a nice way.
You know who makes a real bad sorrel? Your brother Clement.
Really?
It's off the chain.
Wow.
It's off the chain. So if you're listening, Clement, I need my sorrel this Christmas.
Well, we probably will. We'll tell them more about our Christmas special next week.
Yes,
where we're going to bring some exciting folks here and really celebrate Christmas. So, as our grandparents would say, a million stories in one. But let's get back to our info chow down, where it's Sowing Seeds of Knowledge Month, and Megan, I'm going to hand it over to you, so that we can do our information section. This is something we're going to do this week and next week. And of course, even though next week is our last week, we are going to continue to send you our newsletter. So we will continue to celebrate Sowing Seeds of Financial Knowledge Month, even after our final episode for this season next Wednesday. So, Megan, let me hand it over to you. I'm going to go grab some water.
Grab some water.
Make it to the end. I have this residual. Has anyone had that problem where, you don't have a cold, but just a residual scratching?
Yep. A little tickle.
Oh, my goodness.
Yep. Lots of water.
Yep. So let me grab a bottle of water, and I'll be right back. So you take it away with your tips.
Okay. So we're going to be focusing on entrepreneurship because last month was our month where we focused on our entrepreneurs. So I just want to leave a little bit of knowledge and something for you entrepreneurs to think about. And there are the 5 C's of entrepreneurship. 5 C's of entrepreneurship. So for anyone who is an entrepreneur, or for those of you who might be thinking about taking that step, here are 5 things 5 C's you need to take into consideration. And they are, and no particular order, credibility, clarity, conviction, capital, and concentration in execution. It's a mouthful, but I'll say it again. Credibility, clarity, conviction, capital, and concentration in execution. And just very briefly, I'm just going to go through each of them. Credibility, you have to be credible. So it comes down to being your word, being your bond, you being able to deliver what you say you're going to deliver. So do not, what they say sometimes with politicians, they overpromise and underdeliver. That's not credible. You are going to deliver what you say you're going to deliver. So you have to be credible. But you also need to be clear for yourself and clear to your customers what exactly you're doing. So you need to have clarity. And a lot of times clarity comes when you write it down, take it out of your head, because sometimes in your head it seems great until you write it down and you realize, ew, it's not all of that. Another tip for clarity: when you write it down, share it with someone else, a trusted friend, a spouse, a mentor. Have someone else look at it so that it is clear not just to you, but to someone else, and be open to tweaking it if you need to. Then you need to have the conviction. And that is where your passion comes in. So, as an entrepreneur, you have to have the conviction that whatever it is you're selling, it's worth whatever you're selling. So, it can't be that you're selling products. So, I happen to have my Barbuda emblem necklace today. And I'm just using this as an example. We had Odelia on as
last week,
and she had so much conviction of what she was selling, and so she could convince anyone that she had the passion. She was convicted that her products are good products, and that's what we have to do. If at all you question what you're doing, if you question the quality of your product or your service, perhaps it's time to just take a step back and get that sorted out before you move on. Then capital. It's all well and good to have a great idea, but you need the money. And there are various ways you can get this capital. It could be your own money. It could be money you borrow from family and friends, or money that you get from the bank. And there are pros and cons for each one, but just to understand that you are going to need some form of capital to start. And then concentration in execution. That really just means you need to be focused. You can't do, even if it's a side hustle, you need to give whatever your business or your service or your product is, you need to give it the focus it needs in order to grow, in order for it to come from the seed that you've sowed and become into a plant. So you have to have concentration in execution. So your 5 C's for entrepreneurship: credibility, clarity, conviction, capital, and concentration in execution.
fantastic. I wish we had a slide. I wish we had, but
we're
you
going to
know
have
what?
a slide next week.
And not only that, we'll make sure we put it on our Facebook page. So
Absolutely.
that's really, really great information.
Absolutely.
So I really hope that our
That's why we make
listeners.
a good team, Doreed.
That's why what?
That's why we make a good team.
Yep. Great. Well, thank you so much for that. Thank you for serving the knowledge.
You are most welcome. Yeah.
All righty. So it's about sowing seeds of knowledge, sowing seeds of financial knowledge. And let's get over to Dr. Norma. And, tell us a bit about your background. I don't know of anyone that I grew up with who said they wanted to be a chief extension officer. Okay? I mean, I'm sure it's a name that we heard. The extension officer is coming to look at the land or something. I know the terminology. So I'm not even sure what an extension officer does. Mm-hmm. And number 2, like I said, it's not something little girls, not any in my circle at least, fantasize about when we were growing up. So tell us, how did you end up? And then, of course, if you're going to be an extension officer, you got to do it for a university. That's the way to do it.
One of the top universities in Florida.
Exactly. So do the thing, girl.
So you see me rubbing my hands. It's like me getting excited about telling people about what I love. So it's the conviction,
Oh, fantastic.
There you go.
Fantastic.
There you go.
Yeah. So I grew up in Golden Grove. I'm from Antigua, for those who don't know me. And I grew up in a farming family. And I like to tell people, I started to work the land as soon as I was able to hold a house. So we had enough land that each of us had our little plots at home.
But hold that thought. When I think of Golden Grove, unless it's changed considerably,
well,
you know what? There are some open fields, but it's not a place that you associate with farms.
Yeah, we were just below Antigua State College. So you could see us from Antigua State College. And then
across the street? from Antigua State College or the
No,
same
so
side?
if you're at the engineering building and you look
Yes.
down the hill,
Uh-huh.
we were down, down
Oh,
that
You were
way,
thinking
going
about like Golden Grove School.
on the
yes,
same road
yes.
with Farrell Church.
Okay, got
Ah,
you. So that
Yeah,
yes,
makes
yes,
on
sense.
the
yes,
Yes,
same
that
yes.
road
makes
with
sense.
Farrell
Okay,
Church.
that makes
And
sense.
then we had a farm over on Golden Grove Extension. Like you're gonna go over the hill, you make a left,
Mm-hmm.
going down there. So all that land was, I think that was called Cooks. So all that
Mm.
land was, farmland at one point. So we used to have a
Hmm.
farm
Oh,
down that
wow.
way also.
And both your
So
parents were farmers?
yeah, my father did a few different things, but yes. So I grew up in a farming family,
Nice.
and that's where I developed my love for agriculture. And then I went to Jennings Primary and Jennings Secondary, and Jennings School had a strong agriculture program.
I know
And
that.
Mm.
so that cemented my love for agriculture and my decision to get into that field. So shout out to Miss Allison Warner. She was my first and second
No, I
form
remember her.
teacher. And then Oswald Joseph was, the one in my upper years in high school. And he's an excellent, ag teacher. So I had a strong foundation there. And then when after high school, I went to State College. And then after that, I got a job with the Ministry of Agriculture. So I used to work out at Dunbar's at the research station. I was there for probably about a year and a half or 2 years. And then I went on to ECIAF, which is the Eastern Caribbean Institute of Agriculture and Forestry in Trinidad. And that's a 2-year college. So Les Roy went to ECIAF before I got there. So in ECIAF, when you're a student at ECIAF, you're like, oh, we're just free labor, because yes, they had staff there, but we got lots of hands-on practice
Oh,
at
wow.
ECIAF. So we were the ones, we were milking cows, we were managing the garden. And when you had practicals, we call it practicals, it was morning and sometime evenings, depending on what it is. When you had pig practical, all week you were working with pigs and you smell like a pig, no matter how you try to wash that
Wow,
smell,
how exciting.
And then
Okay.
when the cows were in labor, we had to be down on the farm at night on vigil. We had to learn how to slaughter poultry. So when you left ECIAF,
Wow.
you were well-rounded. You not only had the book knowledge, but we had that practical experience. So you come out of ECIAF with a very strong foundation. And we used to say across the Caribbean, you could tell the ones who went to ECIAF and the ones who went directly to UWI before going to ECIAF, So we ECIAF people, we pride ourselves in that we get that strong foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, across the Caribbean, there are lots of different, a lot of different countries have their own little agriculture college. So hopefully they're doing that same type of strong practical background like what we had when people from across the region went to ECIAF. So from ECIAF, I came back to Antigua, and I worked in different departments. So I don't know if y'all know Francis Henry. He was the director of agriculture at that time. And anyone asks me, well, who's the person that guide your career most? That's Mr. Henry for me, you
Okay.
know. And so he was director of agriculture at that time, and he asked that I go to different departments within the ministry to
Mm-hmm.
see where I would be interested in working. So I went to Promise. So Promise was upstairs CMC that does marketing. I I didn't really do anything at extent. I wasn't assigned to extension, but because Lesroy was an extension officer at the time, I did a lot with the extension crew. And then I also went to plant protection. So before I left, I was the interim plant protection director. And then in 2005, I came to the United States, and I pursued my bachelor's and master's in plant protection and pest management. So that was an interesting story, because even though I was married to an American, I didn't have my papers yet. So you have to get a student visa. And I was like, I'm going to go by faith. I'm going to come with 1 year's funding. That's all you needed for the visa. So I took out a loan to come to college for 1 year. And not knowing how the system worked, I realized I chose the most expensive route, because I was coming as an international student. So you're considered out of state. And at the time, University of Georgia was using quarters. And so every 3 months, I had to be forking out 3,000 US. Anyhow, once I learned that you have to be a resident, you have to reside in the state for a year in order to get, in-state tuition. I was like, that's the route Lesroy needs to take when he comes up. So when he came up, instead of going directly to University of Georgia, he went to a small college first, a private college where the tuition is much lower in a small 2-year college, and then transferred to UGA to pursue his studies. And while I was paying 3,000 a semester, he was paying 900. So it's a vast difference. So for people who are listening who have intentions to come up to study, they may want to think about if they're doing it on their own funds, think about a small university, a small college first.
Right.
And that way you establish residence in that year, and then you transfer to the college that's your dream college. So that's an idea, because
it's not where you start, it's where you end.
Yes, so we're talking about saving money.
Yep.
So when I completed, before I go to when I completed, so I did I had funding for 1 year, but what I did, I made sure I studied hard, and it wasn't much entertainment or any of that stuff. I stayed focused, and I made sure I applied for scholarships. There are lots of scholarships out there.
And you had children by this point, right? Because you had children by this point.
No, I had my son when I was finished with my bachelor's. So just as I was finishing my bachelor's.
Oh, I thought you said 2005.
Did I say 2000? Oh,
yeah.
Sorry, 1995.
Okay, that makes more sense. I'm thinking by 2005.
I had to play the calculations here. I'm thinking
1995. I had 2005 on the brain. That's something else. Good catch right there.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I applied for scholarships, and you have to do things by faith. Sometimes you don't know what is going to happen, but I like to tell people life is a risk. And so you have to be willing to take that risk in order to achieve your goals. So you have to have a vision and just believe in yourself, and that conviction, and you're gonna go far. So anyhow, after I was done, I was like, I should probably just go on and do my master's, because I'm already here. I may as well do that. And I took the GRE, and I went on to do my master's, and I got an assistantship from the University of Georgia. So with an assistantship, you get funding that covers your living expenses. It's usually enough to cover your living expenses. and you get your tuition waived. And as a result of that, you have to work for the university. And in my case, I help to teach. I help to teach nematology lab. So nematodes are small worm-like organisms that affect plants. And
Ooh.
I worked in the nematology lab, and I also help with the classes. So that's how I funded my way to get my master's in plant protection and pest management. So when I was there, after I graduated, I was like, okay, what do I do now? And there were lots of options, and um, I finished before Les Roy because he was, a whole half year behind me. And what I decided, okay, I'm gonna go teach. And I did it for 10 weeks, and I was like, no, that's not my call. That's
What
not
did you
my calling.
what level were you teaching at?
So
In the high school or?
this was high school, but
Okay.
it was all the kids that no one else wanted in their classes. They dumped into the agriculture program. So it wasn't students that had an interest in ag. So I did that for 10 weeks, and I was like, no. So I ended up in extension working for Clemson University. And how I came about that job is that I started to volunteer in the community, and the connections that I made, I was able to find out about that job and applied, and was able to get that job. So
Wow.
that's a good thing. And then to jump forward, I ended up in Florida working for the University of Florida. And as a University of Florida employee, you can get an advanced degree for free. That's part of your benefits. You just have to pay for your books and for your research hours. And so I was like, let me do my PhD. I'm just going to kill some brain
You
cells.
go, girl.
So I did my PhD in ag ed and agriculture education and communication, focusing on international extension. And my research was on extension officers in the Caribbean and their competencies. And then, and I also did a minor in nonprofit management. So that's my background. In terms of not knowing anyone who wants to be in extension
Yep.
and explaining what extension is, we call extension here in Florida or in the US the outreach arm of the university, because extension is linked to what we call the land grant university. So in our case, University of Florida. So they're doing the research on campus, and then we have offices in all of the counties across Florida. And our role is to educate the people in the counties with that knowledge that is generated through the research. And then us being on the field, we can also drive the research that they do there in the field. Yeah. So in terms of young people who are watching, I want you to know agriculture is not just working in the fields, but it's, lots of different areas from the farm all the way to the table. So it could be packaging science, it could be entomology where you're dealing with bugs, it could be computers, robotics, all that is involved in ag in terms of getting that food from the farm to the table.
And I like that because young people, it's important that they know what's up there. And if you just say agriculture, I believe it's going to turn off some of the young people. But what you just said, all the different types of
All the areas.
opportunities from the farm to the table, then there's so much that they can do.
Yes.
But let me ask you though, you were speaking from your point of view in Florida. Do you see these types of opportunities here in Antigua?
Oh, certainly, certainly. So, within the Ministry of Agriculture, they have all sorts of positions that they can fill. So you'll have people working in agronomy. You have people with forestry degrees. You have agricultural engineers. You have entomologists, plant pathologists. So there are lots of different fields that you can work on. Agricultural economists, lots, food science, those people that are helping with determining the how you process foods, for example, the nutritional value of those foods. Soil scientists, food safety specialists, the nutrition, because you need to make that connection between the food and the nutritional value
Right.
of the food also.
Yeah.
But let's reel it back into entrepreneurship. And as we
Mhm.
were talking earlier, years ago when I worked in with pharmaceuticals, I was shocked. When we had a couple of clients who were into pesticides and what's the other word that I never knew before pesticides? Some other kind of side. I forget what
Oh,
it was.
insecticide?
Insecticides. Yes, I was
Yes.
like, wow, yes, insecticides, pesticides, and all this stuff. In talking to a lot of farmers, because of course, a farmer, and I never thought about it before this, a farmer is a businessman.
Of
You're
course.
running a business.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
so a lot of these farmers had MBAs. I was shocked. And I'd have to interview them. And you're talking to these farmers, and this guy could have been on Wall Street.
Hmm.
If they show up to focus groups dressed in a shirt and tie because they are small, they are entrepreneurs. They're running a business, and it really, when you have a farmer who has 1,500 acres of he's a tobacco farmer, or he's a wheat farmer, um, and they're making, and this was 20 years ago. They're grossing $5 million a year, and
Wow.
$8 and $10 million a year. I started looking at farming very differently. You know,
Good, because you should.
you know. So, but let's talk about from an entrepreneurship business side of farming. What would you say are some of the major financial issues that farmers face?
I think access to capital is one, and so they may not have access to capital. They may not have access to land. So there in Antigua, through the extension office, if you have people who are interested in farming, that's the good thing about the Caribbean system. You go to the extension office and say, "Hey, I'm interested in farming." And they have areas with government land that scheduled for farmers to use, that
Mm-hmm.
you can get a piece of property that you can use for farming. So that's a good thing. The other downside is insurance, because hurricanes can come and just wipe
Mm-hmm.
out your crop, or you can have a significant drought, and that can affect your crop also. um, so up here, you can insure your crop, and that way, if some disaster, you can get access to fund to start up again. Um, but it's more difficult in the Caribbean to access insurance. I know some
Mm-hmm.
countries have been talking about that. To what extent they're doing it at this point, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. The other challenge is predial larceny. So I
Oh,
remember as a kid, you will plant your crop and you're eyeing that pumpkin to come
Mm-hmm.
in. And then you go back and someone harvests all your pumpkins, or they harvest all your sweet potatoes. So the
it's a
predial
serious problem
larceny
here still.
is
Still a
another
big problem. Still
is,
a big
is another
problem.
problem. But to back up to your comment about the farmers who are bankers and those things, you do have some of those in Antigua. I remember in 2013 when I was collecting information for my dissertation in Antigua, I met a gentleman who, and I don't remember his name, he was a young fella. And I was so pleased to know that he had a degree in finance or something like that. And he chose to be a farmer. So that was his side hustle, and he was doing really good at it. Um, Dalma Brown, you probably know Dalma Brown.
Yeah, of course.
He is one of the big farmers in Antigua that, had other, had another job also. So some people, they may have ag as a side job and they do it seriously. So it's taking your farming as a business and not just a hobby.
Right. No, and interestingly, what I wanted to, one of the things we wanted to talk about today are some of the parallels between farming and finance. And I just took some notes when you were talking, because you talked about insurance. Think about investments. You really, really have to look at some of the risks. You have to manage risks, the uncertainty. In the case of, farming, it's things like climate, like you mentioned. It could be a drought. It could be some infestation that you're faced with as unexpected. And, so in finances, certainly if you are running a business, you definitely need some insurance. And then, of course, when you are, so that's a big parallel, the risks that you face as a farmer, and then perhaps as an investor or an entrepreneur running a business. So I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah. And, if you have people who are interested in, getting into farming, they can always contact their extension office, and they will probably have someone there who can help them develop a business plan for what they want to do, so they can approach the bank for financial help. So that's something that they can always do.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, I can just say, because a lot of times we think that farming is not, we don't kind of put that in the same category as we put other entrepreneurial endeavors, where you need to have a business plan.
Right.
But it's really important for young persons in particular, those of you who are interested in making farming either a side hustle or your main job. You have to recognize that just like the other areas, a business plan is important. You need to know whether this thing is going to make you money and how it's going to make the money.
And farmers usually like to share their knowledge. So it's getting to know other farmers and talking to people in the field to see what the experience is like.
Okay. Yep. And then that brings us to another note that I made myself earlier about relationships. As a farmer, you have, you're part of an ecosystem, right? Your success is hinged upon so many other players in your ecosystem, and so many other factors. And similarly, in managing a small business, it's about managing relationships.
Yes. The other thing too is that, as farmers, they can also think about the value added products that they can derive from their farms.
Yeah.
So for those who are growing sorrel, for example, they can think about sorrel wine, sorrel ice cream, sorrel jam, but making sure that they have that food safety aspect, under control, because you want to know that whatever you're putting out there is safe and you're not going to get people sick with what you're producing.
Yes. Let's take a break. This has been very interesting. We'll come back and talk more about finance and getting some of the wisdom from the people who know the land. But let's take this opportunity, Megan, to see if we have any questions, any comments, and just acknowledge our amazing viewers today.
So no comments yet. We just have a thumbs up from Lydia. We have greetings. So hi, Lydia.
Hi, Lydia.
Hi, Lydia.
We have greetings from Janice Davis Asidu. Hey, Janice. So no questions, just people hollering at us.
Yep. Well, we want to manage our time because I was amazed when I read your bio. And then, of course, you were on ABS a couple of months ago talking about sorrel and some of the work that you're doing. So everyone likes sorrel, at least all Caribbean people. If you don't like it, I don't know. Yeah, something's a little wrong. But the good thing is, if you don't like to drink, there's so many other things. I mean, sorrel jam. I've had sorrel jam, and it's amazing.
Awesome.
Sorrel wine is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
The ice cream, I don't think I've had. You know what? I think I went to a restaurant once years ago, and there was sorrel ice cream.
Yeah,
and
the
it was
ice
so
cream,
good.
the pie. Yes,
Oh,
lots
the
of different.
pie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
So
I
I've
see
made
a lot of
apple
black cake.
pie
Uh-huh.
and added sorrel to it.
Oh,
so
wow.
it has
Add the
that.
actual sorrel florets or just the
Yes,
juice?
the calyces. So I, use the calyces added to the apple pie. Yes, and then I've done like a key lime pie version. So I use the key lime pie recipe and modify it by adding not lime, but I'm adding sorrel
Oh,
to
wow.
it. Yeah. So there's you have to be creative with it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So when is the cookbook coming?
I have so many things going. What I'm going to be working on first are some publications related to commercial production of sorrel and like diseases of sorrel. And we are currently experimenting or doing research on 4 different varieties of sorrel.
I didn't even know there are that many. I think there's a white sorrel, right?
There are lots of different varieties. So University of the Virgin Islands has a plant breeder there who does a lot of work with sorrel, and he has lots of different varieties of sorrel. His name is Dr. Zimmerman. So a group of us from UF are actually going to visit them there at University of the Virgin Islands next week. But
nice.
There's like what they call a white sorrel that's actually
I've seen the white sorrel.
There's
Yes.
There's pink ones, there's black ones, lots of different.
Does it taste different?
Versions. I prefer the dark colored sorrel, the light colored ones. I find that they're not as as strong as we would say in Antigua.
Right.
They're not as tapped as the regular red sorrel.
Right.
But still colorful, Here you have people using those calyces in salads too.
Yes.
And they use the leaves as greens.
Yes.
And that's, when I came in, I see people are using sorrel for all these things. I was like, oh, we only used to use the calyces. And then the other thing is that growing sorrel back home, we used to just cut down the plants when they were ready to harvest. And then, that was it. And so knowing more about the plant, the plant biology and all that, you realize, well, when you have that bowl and you harvest it, there's another one that's there in the axil of the leaf that's waiting to come out. So when you remove that apical dominance of that main one, you have another one waiting to come out so you can get a second and a third harvest.
Oh, really?
So all the sorrel growers there in Antigua.
But hold that thought. Why does it only, or for us, why do we only see it at Christmas? What's going on with that?
Yeah, so it's a photoperiodic plant, meaning with sorrel that it flowers when the days are shorter. And so that's why you have it around Christmas time. But now we're doing research, and the hard work has been done by Dr. Zimmerman and his team. They've bred what we call a day neutral sorrel variety. And the idea with that is that you will be able to produce sorrel year round. So
Ah,
hopefully people are gonna be okay with drinking sorrel year round and not just at
I
Christmas
hope they can
time.
handle it.
But I have sorrel year round, so I usually have enough to put away, and throughout the year I'm drinking sorrel, so it's not just as at Christmas for me.
so do you
um
freeze them?
yeah, so I freeze them. I prefer them frozen rather than dried, so it's just
Mm.
a matter of preference if you prefer to have them frozen or if you prefer to dry them. But that day neutral sorrel, that's gonna be a game changer. For those who are producing sorrel and they want to, have it year round to give to like restaurants and hotels, that's a way to introduce, that's a niche market
I was
that
just
Mhm.
you
thinking
can
that.
introduce, tourists throughout the year.
So when you go
Wow.
to the Virgin Islands, the information that you will get there, I know you said you're doing something bigger, you're working on commercializing it. Is this information that you'll be able to share with us in Antigua? Because I'm just thinking,
Oh, certainly. So we're going there to see what they're doing with their research on sorrel, and
Hmm.
also to share with the group there what our findings are so far. But they sell seeds there at University of the Virgin Islands. So, if you have people in Antigua who are interested in getting sorrels, different varieties of sorrel, they can always reach out to Dr. Zimmerman for seeds, because
okay,
they do sell sorrel seeds.
yeah,
I'm just curious, what's the origin of sorrel? Where did it come from? Because I see they have it in Africa. I mean, it's clearly something that is, I don't want to say universal, but it's not just
Uh-huh.
limited to the Caribbean.
Yeah,
So,
so it originated somewhere over there in Africa, Asia. There's some discrepancy as to exactly where, depending on who you ask, but it's common in African and Middle Eastern diets. Yes, and so when I was in Ghana, that was the first place that I had sorrel cooked like spinach, and it was really tasty, having it as something
and there are a
different
lot of
and
leaves, so
something
that's
different.
something that we should definitely, in terms of sustainability. What do the leaves taste like? Are they sweet? Are they tart?
They're
Is it
also
distinctive?
tart. They're also
all
tart.
the
Mm.
It
leaves are
depends
tart
on
as
how
well.
you cook it. There's a restaurant here in Central Florida that when they cook it, they do like a balsamic vinaigrette to
Oh, that
serve
must be
it. They
nice.
saute it and have like a balsamic vinaigrette. So it's just to get people to experiment with it. At University of the Virgin Islands, um, they dry the sorrel, and then they make like a sorrel powder that you could put in smoothies. So
Oh, nice.
all those value added
Wow.
products are things that people who are growing sorrel in Antigua could think about to
Yeah,
make
a nice
additional
approach.
money.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. Interesting. So, young
Yes.
people, here's another area for you.
Yes. To
Yeah.
consider.
All right, especially if you can grow it year round.
Yes.
Hmm.
Nice.
And I'm glad that y'all are pushing entrepreneurship, because I like to say, that's one thing that they should be pushing in the schools across the islands, because
Absolutely.
the governments can only employ up to so many
Mm-hmm.
people before they get saturated. So if they train these youth on entrepreneurship, they will have that mindset of, hey, here's this little thing that I want to do, and be able to make their own money.
Yep.
And hopefully there are startup funds that they can get from, either the government or different agencies to get their businesses up and going.
Right.
Entrepreneurship and financial literacy. Those are
Hmm.
two things that
Absolutely.
added to our curriculum.
Absolutely.
And we're going to do our little part to see how we can get those in our curriculum. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
No, this
definitely,
no, this
definitely.
has been really amazing. Megan, I know that you have some more tips for us.
All
Let's take a
right.
break. Let's take a break. and switch over to you with the tips, and then we'll take some more questions and come back to talk about a little more about farming.
Okay, so those of you who have questions or comments, now is the time to put them in our chat. And I'm just going to give you 10 business tips for entrepreneurs. And this is as you go into 2023, tips to get you in the right frame of mind. 10 tips. 1, build like the Romans. What does that mean? Lots of things that the Romans built way back when, they're still standing. So whenever you're doing your business plan, you want it to be strong. You want it to have a good structure. So you're not just planning today for tomorrow, but you're planning for the long haul. Choose the right niche. Sorry, it might be it. I don't know, but you got to do your research. Choose the right niche. Solve a burning problem. What's out there that really is a problem? It's not enough to say, oh, I want to make jewelry if 10 persons are doing jewelry and there is no need for more persons in jewelry. What's the problem that's happening in our society? And there's lots. So solve a burning problem. Obsess over customer needs. I love this because your customers are really the heart of your business. So obsess over their needs. How can you make their experience even better than the one they had before? Focus on profit instead of revenue. And I need to pause here because a lot of people think because you're making money, it means you're keeping money. But there's a difference. So you're going to focus on your profits, which is really your net after you collect the money and then you have your expenses. So it's your profits you have to focus on, not your revenue. Start first with a narrow focus and then you can expand. So I know sometimes we like to think big, but start small, get it right, and then you can expand. Focus on employee morale. You have to focus on your customers, but you also have to focus on your employees because without good employees, unless you're a one-man show, things are going to go wrong. And you know what? Even if you're a one-man show, focus on your own morale as well.
Absolutely.
Start a business that matches your personality. Now, that's important because you need to have the passion for it. So you're going to start a business that matches your personality. So perhaps one of the things you need to find out is what's your personality? There are lots of these quizzes that they have online. Do a few of them and see, or find out from your friends. Are you an introvert, extrovert? But it goes beyond that. See what are the things you like. Do you like being in the background? And even sometimes, if you like being in the background, come out of your comfort zone. You might find something about your personality that you never thought about. So start a business that matches your personality. Always be aware of your competitors' moves. And this is not a bad thing. It's not like you want to necessarily do anything negative to your competitors, but you need to understand the market that you're in. So if your competitor is making some very strong moves in a particular area, perhaps it's time for you to consider whether that's an area you can go into. Perhaps not, but you have to know what your competitors are doing.
Right.
And then the last one is just do it, even if it's not perfect. And we spoke about that earlier, Dorit. Just do it. Even if it's not perfect, you start. Because lots of times ideas just get lost because we have the idea and we think and we think and we think and we never do it. So entrepreneurs, these are your 10 tips I want you to take with you into 2023. And we're going to have it on our Facebook page, correct?
Fantastic. Yes, we are.
All right.
Great. Well, thank you so much for that. Do we have any questions?
So we have a comment from Janice Davis Asidu. I really appreciate this program. It just makes sense. And that's what we try to do. We try to get practical. We try to get the topics that we think our audience would like to hear. Dr. Karen Samuel is in the house. Hi, Karen.
Hi, Karen.
She says, thanks for sharing great financial nuggets we can all use. Absolutely. That's what we're here for. Thank you so much.
Okay, so let's begin to wind down because we could get carried away all evening talking about, not only just sorrel, but talking about our own experiences with farming and, things from our childhood, etc. But Norma, let me give you the floor to wind this down, to tell us what little idea, and I know you have many, but what little idea can you share with us today that can really help people improve on their finances?
Sure. So I can share a few. One, don't go overboard at Christmas time. So so I have 3 kids, and at Christmas time here, it's tradition for you to give the teachers a gift. And the first few years I was buying stuff and I was like, no, man, this is getting expensive because each kid would have, several teachers.
Right.
And as a person who has a garden, what I decided to do is that I would give them a gift of a plant.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to think ahead of time. So
Right.
if you're thinking of doing that now, it's a bit too late, but maybe around like
Home
November,
Depot.
early November, in October, November, you can take your cuttings and you can plant, you can plant something, whether it's coleus, firebush, something, and you have it, you put it in a nice pot and you give that as a gift. So that's one thing that you can do. The 4-H program I know is there in Antigua, and my kids grew up in 4-H. And in 4-H, we teach them about, finances at a young age. And my kids, one of their favorite project was consumer sciences. And with that particular 4-H project, you learn to make sound financial decisions,
Right.
and be able to give justification for your choices based on the particular product that they're studying. And so, my kids are not much into brand names, because for people to understand, and I went to a factory where I saw this, they make all the briefs and the socks. That factory we went to visit, and it's at the end of the process, they put on the different brand names. So here you're, trying to get a Nike or whatever, and then it's the same socks.
Yeah.
You just need to know you're getting a good quality. So don't necessarily think you have to go for brand name all the time. Yes, you want to make sure you get a good quality socks or whatever it is you're looking for, but don't think you have to pay that extra money for
Just
the
for
brand
the name.
for
Yeah.
the brand name all the time.
Yeah.
So
No, that's
those
great.
are 2 tips I can share.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Well, do we have any additional questions? This has been really great wisdom from the people who farm the land.
No more questions at this time.
Well, Megan, why don't you tell us about next week? Because next week is our final episode for the season. And so we want everyone to put some time aside, because we're going to have a party. We're going to have some interesting guests. We're going to have some real sorrow. We're going to have some black cake. I've noticed a lot of people online now, they're putting sorrel in the black cake. Is that a new thing?
You can certainly do that.
I've seen that a lot.
Yeah, when I went to Greece, it was amazing that they had the entire sorrel calyx, and they had it candied. I was like, wow. And
They had it what?
Candied.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So so it's like they took out the bowl. It's still all in one piece,
Mhm.
and then they candied it somehow.
Oh, wow.
And that was a nice, sweet snack.
So tart and wow. I'm trying to think of what that might taste like, similar to what
not quite tamarind, but
tamarind is sweet and sour.
Yeah, so you get that, like tamarind ball, you get that sweet and the tart. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
So next week, we're going to take a break after next week. It's Christmas, and we know everybody has things to do. So next week will be our last for December, and we're gonna have a party. So we want you all to come back have fun. We're going to have lots of prizes, giveaways, some questions and quizzes, tips. But we also will be having, and we're going to have sorrel, hopefully some sorrel wine. And so we're going to have on our show a young lady who has an awesome book. It's a children's coloring book. But those of you who, at least in my age group, would remember back in the day, we would have these coloring books. But it wasn't just a coloring book. It had connect the dots, maybe a maze, find the difference between these two pictures, those kinds of activities. And she has a children's coloring book. I would say coloring and activity book. But the beauty about it, it's about Antigua. So when you open the book, you're going to be coloring a pineapple. You're going to be coloring Shirley's Heights. You're going to be coloring Nelson's Dockyard. You're going to perhaps color our flag. So it's just awesome to see the book that she has created. It's on Amazon. She has locally here as well in Antigua. So it's a wonderful Christmas gift. And someone is going to get one of those gifts next week. We're going to have our mother, Miriam Samuel, our seniorpreneur. She's going to be on the show as well. And hopefully a bit of her goodies. As I said, we have prizes to give away, really nice prizes, if I might add. So, and we are going to be giving you lots of tools and tips to take you into 2023. We're going to have our Christmas music from our DJs. So come.
So we're having a Christmas jam.
Yes, we're going to have a Christmas jam to get you all ready for Christmas and prepared for 2023 and all that it will bring for you and for us. So
okay,
please be there next week.
And bring a friend. Bring a friend. We really want to make this festive. Of course, we will be serving the knowledge next week once again, interspersed with our conversations, our Christmas celebrations. We, just like we did today, we're gonna put it all together, process it, and make it exciting and something that you definitely will learn a lot from. So let's see. Do we have any final questions?
No, we don't. It's
okay.
been a little quiet today.
It's been a little quiet. Well, I'm gonna go see if I can get some sorrel, even if I have to go to the West Indian store. The soda one. Y'all put me in the mood. I'm gonna have some sorrel and Moscato, my favorite.
Oh, nice.
And and maybe I'll buy a sorrel and a ginger beer. So I'll throw them in and put some wine with it. Gives it a really nice kick. If you haven't tried it, you're missing half your life.
Definitely gonna try that.
Yeah.
I have my sorrel drying. So as I said, I'm gonna ask my brother. He does a good one. So he'll be making my sorrel. He probably doesn't even know it yet, but
Well, Dr. Norma, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. It was really great.
You're very welcome, and thank you for having me.
Yes, I finally figured out what extension officers do. I hear it a lot. Everybody, he worked at extension or sheet extension, and I never knew what that meant. Yes. I figured it had something to do with the community, but never quite got it. And so thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge. Farmers are entrepreneurs, and some of them are some very successful business people. So for those of you like Norma who have a love for the land, or you have a relative or a child, a sibling, Norma has taken it all the way. She is Dr. Norma Samuel, and she has, really invested in her love of agriculture. So I want to congratulate you. Safe travels. Bring us back some sorrel, or at least bring us back the knowledge.
The seeds.
And the seeds, yeah.
And if I could quickly add, Reed, if there anyone out there in your listening audience who's interested in getting into the agriculture field and they have questions, they can certainly reach out.
Oh, awesome.
Okay, great. So we'll definitely have her contact information in our newsletter.
Yep.
And so for all of you, listening to us. We want to thank you for spending another Wednesday afternoon with us. If you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, we encourage you to subscribe so that every time we have a new show or some new information that's uploaded, you get that notification right away. And I'll tell you, once we close for our Christmas break, we will be doing things, we'll be doing more online. We will be sending our newsletter still. So there's a lot to catch up on. So definitely, we appreciate the love. Definitely take a moment and just subscribe to our YouTube channel. And of course, like us on Facebook and Instagram. So I want to thank Alia, who is our technical assistant today. Nicholas is not here, but we also want to acknowledge him. That's our young crew, our technical team. They set us up every week. Trust me, we couldn't do this on our own.
Absolutely.
And so we really appreciate them. And also to you, our audience, we appreciate all of you for taking the time today to spend with us. Hopefully you found our seeds of knowledge that we sowed here today. Hopefully you can, they'll bear fruit somewhere along the line. So while Dr. Norma is sowing seeds or sorrel seeds or studying sorrel seeds in the Virgin Islands, we will continue to sow seeds of knowledge so that hopefully we all walk away more informed, more armed, better armed with the information we need to manage our finances. Exactly. So it's been another great episode. Definitely come early next week. Bring a friend. Come ready to have some fun, win some prizes. It's going to be amazing.
Party.
Be ready to party. If you've never been to one of our virtual parties, you're in for a treat. D-Nice has nothing on us. So, folks, we're going to let you go have dinner. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday afternoon. We wish you a pleasant evening and a great rest of the week. And we will see you back here next Wednesday, same time, same place, for another edition of Likkle Byte Ideas. Take care, everyone. Bye.